incredibly nervous this afternoon. I'm not sure why. So shall we just give him a very warm, sort of consoling welcome? Nice to see you, Barry. Well, now, Barry, I think most people here do know you and have come to hear you. So I'd just like to be a little bit nosy, if I can, and ask you a few questions. First of all, do you mind me asking how old you are?
82 tomorrow.
Really? Congratulations.
Ooh, yeah.
Well done. Well done. Well, I'm going to mention a little later on the bookstall, so you could all buy him a book for his birthday. But you've had lots of birthdays before, so okay.
I'm a few, yeah.
You've had a few. And were you born in this, raised up in this sort of area or not?
I was born in Kent and moved
Right.
to Bournemouth in 1944.
Now, that's a long time before I was born, but you've been
Yeah,
here.
well, I'm
yes.
sure it is, yes.
Yes, okay. And as a little lad, was it always your desire to become a doctor?
Oh, no. I made a real mess of my A-levels at school because I was more interested in sport than I was in studying. So I had to come down to Bournemouth with my tail between my legs at the age of 18, and we were welcomed by a wet sock hanging out of the window upstairs by my parents, saying thank you very much for doing so badly. And then fortunately, my mother suggested that I went to see the pharmacist in Boots in Bournemouth, who was a lovely old guy, and he sat me down and he said, I think, Windsor, you ought to go and do medicine, which I did. And fortunately enough, the Middlesex Hospital, as it was then, agreed to take this boy on.
So it's very reassuring that you were a doctor and you'd failed your A-levels. That's really reassuring to every patient.
Yeah, it is terribly reassuring.
It is, yeah, it's all right. Now, interestingly, because I read a sort of summary of your life, and you went to a Masonic school. I didn't even know there were Masonic schools.
Well, my father, before he died, was a Mason.
Right.
And the idea was that if you were the son of a Mason who died, you had the option of going to the school free. And
Right.
it was a big. They had a junior school and a senior school in Bushy, near Watford. And you were there in the junior school from 8 to 12, and then you moved on to the big school from 13 to 18.
Right.
But they've both been sold and shut down now.
Are there any Masonic schools in the country left? I've never heard of them.
I think there's a girls' school still in
Is there
Rickmansworth.
really?
I think so,
I
but I'm
didn't
not
think
sure.
the Masons particularly liked girls. But
Well,
anyway.
I don't know, but I certainly have not had anything more to do with the Masons
No,
since
we'll
I
come
became
on
a
to
Christian.
that,
Yeah.
yes. So you studied medicine. Where did you study it?
At the Middlesex Hospital, but it's now shut down because I
So the
left.
school closed, the hospital closed,
Yeah.
and is your surgery continuing?
Just about.
Just about. All right, okay. And in growing up, did you have church connections at all?
Not really. I mean, when I was at school, we had to go to church twice on Sundays, and my mother, being the forceful lady she was, wanted me done at 16, confirmed. So I was duly done, but it really didn't mean much to me in a spiritual way. In fact, can I extend that just a little bit?
Of course you can.
It wasn't really until I was 46 that things started to turn around.
Well, I'm going to come on to that. Your first medical... I don't like the word practice. It unnerves me. But your first medical practice was where?
The only one I've ever been in was in Boscombe.
Oh, right. So you started and continued here all your life. And, of course, the great thing about the doctors is that, when eventually you fail totally, the patient can't sue, can they?
Well, that's right, yeah.
So it's quite good.
It was quite reassuring, that,
yes,
yeah.
It is indeed. And how big a practice, for those of us who don't know, how many patients did you have?
Well, it wasn't that big. It was only about 12,000, I think, in the end, towards the end, yes.
And how many doctors?
There were about 7 in the end, yes.
Right, okay. And you were a GP, you were seeing every sort of need. Did you have one speciality?
No, I was interested in bones and joints because
Right.
I had a very severe stiff neck in 1964, and I couldn't get rid of it, and I was in such agony. I thought there must be a way forward, so I started to take an interest in sort of, you might call, osteopathy, that sort of thing.
Is that why so many doctors become geriatric specialists?
Well, you mean most doctors are geriatric, is that what you're saying?
Because they know that one day. Anyway, all right. And did you enjoy medicine?
Oh, I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must say, latterly, I think things got a little bit out of kilter because, the government started interfering in a big way. And I think when John Major in 1990, I think it was, said if the patients want it, they can have it sort of attitude, which is fine on principle. But then that was a sort of slippery slope, I think. And by the time I retired in 1995, computers were coming in, and fortunately I managed to resist them coming into the surgery until I left. And after I left, I think everybody had one. But,
right, so you
so
coped, you
thank
coped
God
with
we
that.
didn't have a computer.
We didn't have a computer, all right. And any particular, I don't know, funny or, I don't know, some incident in medicine that really, really has remained in your mind?
Not really, I mean, there are so many, it's difficult to recount. I mean, I always try to let the patients leave the surgery with a smile on their face if I possibly can. That doesn't apply if somebody just lost a relative or something.
No.
But by and large, I tried to encourage people to leave them with a smile if I could. I had one guy who was terrified of me. He used to come and sit in my surgery. He came in and sat down, and you could see him like this. And I said, so I leant across my desk, and I said, have one. So he always said, thank you, doctor, as he lit up his cigarette. And he thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Really?
So we both had a cigarette together. And I mean, it's terribly non-PC, and
It is, absolutely.
I apologize.
Absolutely. All right. And be honest with us. Were there some, some patients when they arrived, you thought, oh, no.
Oh, yeah, of course so. But then people thought that about me, probably. So I haven't got to see that old geezer today. In fact, when I joined the practice, we didn't have an appointment system then, and if you didn't have people just turned up.
Yes.
And being the new boy, if you didn't have anybody turn up for the surgery, you had to buy the receptionist a pair of gloves. Fortunately, I was saved by one patient on one occasion, so I didn't have to buy any gloves. But
right, were you a soft touch?
It depends what you mean by a
Well,
soft touch.
doctor, I've got a headache. Do I have to go to work this week?
That's a loaded question, isn't it? Yeah. No. Pass.
Pass, all right. Okay, so you're a doctor here, and you married?
Yes.
And tell us about how you met.
Oh, I met at a hop in London originally, and then, of course, I got married, we had children, and unfortunately, after about however many years it was, about 1979-80, the wheels started to fall off, I'm afraid.
Right.
And 4 children, this particular Boxing Day, I think it was 1980, we had a big house in Boscombe at the time, and there were we had 4 children, I think 3 dogs, a big house, and on the face of it, a good job. And on Boxing Day, the house was empty, they'd all gone out, and I suddenly looked around the house and I thought, I've got nothing. Just like that. It hit me. I thought, I've got nothing. So I thought, what on earth do I do? So fortunately, I had a patient of mine who was a good friend to Alan Fisher, who was a lovely Baptist minister. And I rang him, I said, Alan, I'm awfully sorry to trouble you, but could I come and see you sometime, because I'd like to have a chat. And he said, well, funny enough, Barry, all the family's come out. Why don't you come and see me now?
Really amazing. And the concern was a spiritual one?
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yes.
I'm sure it was a spiritual battle.
Do you remember how you began the conversation with Alan?
No, I can't really. I just said, I more or less went there and said, help me, I'm in a mess.
And he began to talk to you about Christian things.
And then the Easter Sunday, that after we met in December, I was baptized in the Baptist church on a Sunday.
So between Christmas and Easter, you'd become a Christian.
Yeah.
Do you know when that was, how
No.
it was? No. But what, you just became convinced of Christian truth?
Yes, because let's be honest, I tried everything else, and that wasn't the answer, was it?
But the BBC sort of pumps at us the idea that if you're a scientist, which a doctor is, you can't believe, but you did believe.
Yes, but lots of doctors are Christians. I mean...
It's not the idea that comes across, though, is it?
But you see, interestingly enough, in 1984, I think it was, Shirley and I went to a meeting by what was it called? ACORN. It just started.
Oh,
ACORN.
right. This is caring for people with...
Well, it was trying to get the ministers and the doctors working together.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that really was a great encouragement to me, to encourage ministers to come into the surgery and that sort of thing. So that was very helpful too.
So you came to believe that obviously there is a God, and you believe that Jesus died for you and rose from the dead, and you trusted Christ in a personal way?
I have to say, I mean, the way you say it, it was as if I'd had a blinding Damascus Road experience. It wasn't anything like that, and it took a really long time for me to come to terms with my past life. And I know.
When you say that, what do you mean by that? And if I can pick you up, you said the wheels were coming off, so your marriage was falling apart. Were you blaming yourself for that, Barry?
Yeah.
What, do you feel you were a bad husband or father or?
Pass. We'll leave that aside. It's to say that
but I'm reading between the lines. That's the problem.
We'll just leave the wheel there. You read between the lines. We're not here to discuss my past.
All right, okay. But you do blame yourself for all that.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay, and you separated.
Yes.
And it was after that you came to this Christian conviction.
Well, it was during it, really.
Right, okay.
Because I was actually divorced in 1981, following the Easter that I found the faith.
Okay. And so as a Christian, you mentioned this relationship with the Freemasons. What did you feel you had to leave the Masons?
I did, yes. Yeah.
But that's not always easy to do.
Well, didn't happen to me. All I did was just chuck the regalia in the bin, in the rubbish bin, and that was it. So I didn't sort of feel I had to leave them at all.
All right.
Oh, no.
So you'd become a Christian. How old were you when you became a Christian?
46, I think.
46, right. And you married again, didn't you?
Yeah, some years later. I mean, that is a long story in itself, but I won't just made this particular lady I met in the back of the Baptist church,
right,
particularly in 1982.
Right.
And I didn't believe it was her because I knew what a sinner she was when I knew her some years previously, and she thought the same about me. But she made the big mistake of coming back a month later, and accepted my invitation for coffee. And of course, that's why she's in such a dreadful state now, having been married to me for 29 years.
29 years, wonderful. And Barry, children. How many children do you have?
We did have 4.
Now, I want to ask about this because becoming a Christian for you, Barry, didn't mean that suddenly everything turned out rosy, did it? You've had a tough time, really, throughout life.
We've had a few interesting situations, yes. We've had a couple of sad instances, but we've had some very joyous experiences, too. I mean, our little granddaughter, Jennifer, our youngest daughter, her daughter,
your granddaughter, yeah,
was born at 2 weeks. Was born with 2 holes in her heart, and at 2 weeks old, she had to have fairly major heart surgery to repair the 2 holes. And she only weighed 5 pounds, bless her, which was half the weight of my Dachshund. And so to give you some idea of this difficult surgery, and then sadly she had to go back to theatre again because, unfortunately, because it was such a technically difficult operation, the surgeon put a stitch through her conducting mechanism of the heart, so they had to take her back again. So it was interesting because we prayed for her first of all that she'd come off the intubation and all the rest of it, and gradually, and on the 10th day, we were told that if the pacing wires that she got put in her heart weren't removed and the heart wasn't beating normally, she'd have to stay on the pacing machine forever. And on the 10th day, the nurse went there and they were both lying outside her chest.
Amazing.
And the heart was beating normally. And she was here last night.
How old is she?
30 now.
30, amazing, wonderful. But there weren't always the same joyful results, were there? Do you mind me being... I don't want to touch your nerves,
I'm sorry if I get a bit emotional.
Tell us about some of these sadnesses.
Well, in 1967, wasn't it, dear? Yeah. Our daughter Jennifer died. She was a sad girl because of all the 3 daughters, she was probably the most attractive physically. I mean, she was a beautiful child and a beautiful mother, a beautiful girl in her 20s and 30s. But she, for some reason, she started taking cough medicine and then alcohol, and in spite of 2 or 3 visits to rehab and all the rest of it, where she was doing remarkably well, she was there, but as soon as she came out, things weren't so good. And in January 1967, she jumped off the Sovereign Centre in Boscombe and suffered quite a few multiple injuries and was in Poole Hospital for 13 weeks. Came out, and within 2 weeks she was drinking again, quite heavily, so much so that she was sectioned to St Anne's. On the night that she was sectioned, the doctor who was seeing her and the social worker, they rang me and said, would I go over? And Jenny pleaded with me to take her home. And I said, darling, but surely you need proper treatment. And I never spoke to her again after that. She refused to see me after that. And she died suddenly. She died in September when I don't know if she discharged herself from St Anne's or what, but she came to the Sovereign Centre again and jumped off the Sovereign Centre on one of her crutches, and of course hit the ground, and that was it. So that was a difficult time.
Barry, how did you obviously be traumatized, but how did you feel about God and your relationship with the Lord when you heard this news?
Well, the thing is, we'd taken Jenny to a J-John meeting in the October
So he's
before.
a Christian preacher?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Jenny came home that night, because Jenny came instead of Shirley, and she came home to Shirley and she said, I said the prayer tonight, Cheryl.
This is a prayer of commitment to Christ.
Yeah.
Mm.
But sadly, it wasn't enough to keep her from taking her own life.
Mm.
And yes, I can, you might well ask, where is God in all this? But God gives us free will. We're not all here puppets dancing on a string, with some big automaton God telling us all what to do all the time and stopping us doing anything stupid. If I want to walk out in front of a bus today, God's not going to stop me.
Well, can you wait till the end of the interview? Do you
Yeah.
mind? But no, we get the point. But did you blame God? Were you angry with God? Not at all.
No, not at all. Why should I be?
Well, to lose a child probably is the worst form of bereavement, isn't it?
It was difficult. Yeah, It was very difficult.
Did she have children?
She had 2 children, and it's a paradox, really, because before Jenny died, the home life for the children, shall I say, was far from ideal. And I'll leave you all to put your own interpretation on that. And as a matter of fact, since Jenny took her own life, the children actually have blossomed. Her son is now, our grandson, is working, he's got his own little business in Litchett, and Lisa is happily engaged to Gary, who they were both here last night.
Okay, yes, wonderful. But there was more sadness, wasn't there?
Yes, in I think it was 1988, our daughter Penny, who was then 48, an attractive lady, went to a doctor and said she got some problems with the lower part of her tummy, and she was sent for a colonoscopy privately, and had that done and was told there was nothing wrong with her. All she got wrong with her was piles. So she had 2 or 3 injections of that, and then I think it was about 18 months later, she came home to see us in June one year, and the sun was shining, and she said, I'll go and have a lie on the bed in the garden if I may, Grandad. I said, Dad, that's fine. And when she was like, I said to Shirley, Penny's tummy's a bit distended. So I went out to the garden, I said, Penny, did you mind if I put my hand on your tummy? And she said, no, of course not, Dad. And to my horror, she got this great big mass in the top part of her tummy, and I knew then that she got secondary cancer. But obviously, I couldn't say that to her.
No.
So I gave her a letter to her GP, and of course, she had some palliative chemotherapy, but she died a year later, sadly. Now, her illness, when she never admitted once that she was going to die, not to me, to anybody else. And it was very difficult helping her, because if somebody doesn't want to talk about death, you can't really help them in any way.
No.
But then the night before she died, Shirley and I spent quite a long time talking with her, especially Shirley. And in the morning, Penny woke up and said to Shirley, thank you for last night. So we can only assume, and Shirley was needless to say, was talking about the Lord Jesus. So we are reassured in many ways that Penny has at least gone to be with the Lord. But yes, that was difficult.
I'm sure it was. Now, look, Barry, Christians, and therefore you believe that God is good. But do you feel he's let you down? Has God been good when he's, as it were, taken 2 of your children?
No, he didn't take them. The girl who had the cancer, I mean, if anything, you could blame anybody. You could blame the doctor for missing the diagnosis in the first place. But that's another story. There's no point in going down that.
No.
The thing is, this life is not... Nobody said the Christian walk was a double. We don't just become Christians because we want everyone to be in the garden is lovely. But not at all. No, it was difficult. But then so other times in my life, I mean, when I became a Christian, I went through a very, very dark place. Very dark place for quite some time. Because of what had happened in the past, because of the guilt about the divorce, all these sorts of things. And I can remember coming home at lunchtime and actually getting down on my knees, on my own in the house, and just praying, dear Lord, help me through the day. And it was a horrid place. But then I can remember one day, I actually went out and I suddenly could see the birds hear the birds singing, and see the flowers, the colours in the flowers. And I thought, it's wonderful. And suddenly, and then I found that I hadn't been out socially on my own for 18 months. And suddenly one night I was invited to a car showroom I don't know where it was, just as a new car. But I went there for the first time on my own. And that, again, was a big milestone. And it sounds pathetic standing here at the age of 82 saying all this, doesn't it? But that's the way I was at the time. A complete wreck, really. I was still doing my job, just about. I don't think I made too many mistakes then. I hope I didn't. But
And what do you've been a Christian almost now half your life.
yeah.
What has God done for you in that time?
Well, he's given me 9 grandchildren. He's given me a lovely wife. He's given me a fantastic church family. And I can't believe they're all they're crazy to come here today, aren't they, really, when you think about it? When
Bribed them, to be
well,
honest.
that's what it was, yeah. But then, these are the sort of plus side. But you see, our whole life now is surrounded by encouragement, by concern, by love. We come every week, we hear the message of the Lord. I need telling this every week, because at the age of 82 you tend to forget what you've been told in the sermon the next morning if you can remember it that night.
Hope that encourages you, Nick.
but no, seriously, it's the church, it's the Christian family, and also I love people anyway. So when I go out and I have this invalided dog, and I take her out each day, and it's great to stop and talk to people about their dog, and try sometimes to mention my faith. They call me on the golf course the old man who wears shorts with a knee support, a collie dog, and he talks about church. And there was one lady I tried to talk to when her mother was very ill, and it was pouring with rain, and I said to Karen, I said, would you like this New Testament, the Gideon Testament? Oh, no, she said, I don't believe in all that. So only a few months later, this lady was at a coffee morning or something with a church member, and apparently my name came up, and this lady said to my friend, oh yes, he was the one who tried to hit me over there with the Bible.
Okay. But you believe the Bible, you read the Bible.
Of course, oh yes, yeah. Because unless you do that, how do you know what God's going to say to you?
Interesting. Now, again, sensitive, you are growing older, you've admitted it, and one day the news is going to go round, isn't it? Barry's gone.
That's right.
Do you have confidence in the sight of death?
Of course. I mean, I had a fairly major abdominal operation when I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and I went into that operation completely at peace. And I thought, well, I wrote letters to my wife, to my children, and I thought, well, if the Lord takes me, he takes me. But I woke up in the ITU, and I asked the nurse for a kipper and a pipe, so it wasn't too bad.
In that order.
I'm not sure which came first.
But have you ever regretted, Barry, that transition from being, I don't know, your own man to a man who's trusting in Jesus Christ as Lord and Saviour?
The only regret I have is it took me 46 years to find it.
So you commend Christ to others wherever you can? Well,
to me, there's no other alternative.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what's the alternative? Do you just believe in nothing? Where are we going to go when we leave this earth? Are we going to go to dust and nothing? Or do we have faith that when we leave this world, we'll meet all our Christian brothers and sisters?
And the Lord.
Yeah, that's right. But what more could you ask, really?
I know, I agree with you. Barry, it's great to have you here, and I'm sure there are lots of other areas of your life that we could have explored. Do you have any favourite Bible verses? You say you read the Bible, but right, have you got one written out for us?
Well, I had to, because you know what my memory's like. No, when I was baptised, the minister, I got out of the pool and the minister gave me a Bible.
So what you went into, this was a real Baptist.
Oh yeah.
You went down into the water and came up out of the water. Okay.
And when I dried myself off, Alan gave me this Bible and he said, Jeremiah 33:3, call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. And that really, if I may say, sums up my Christian walk.
Well, it's a great summary. Barry, thank you very much. You will stay around and hover around, and all these people who've been bribed to come and hear you, I'm sure would love to chat. Let's show our appreciation, shall we? Thank you very much.
Thank you for putting up with me.
Sorry?
Thank you for putting up with me.
And it didn't appear that he was nervous, did it? It's thank you very much. Are you all right?
Yeah, just about.
Just about.
It's my knee. I haven't got my knee support on.
Oh, it's all that sport you did, you see,
Yeah,
when you were young. Do talk with Barry. We're going to have a little bit of a break now, more refreshments, more drink, etc. And then I'm going to come, I'll mention the bookstall and we'll round off. And but chatter away, won't you?